I know you guys watch these videos to relax or at bedtime, so before starting I would like you guys to subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments down below from where and at what time you are watching this video. Let's begin. I used to work as a postal driver in a rural town called Black Hollow, nestled in the folds of thick Appalachian woodland. Population? Just under 700. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and gossip travels faster than any mail I ever delivered. My route included a forgotten stretch of gravel road known as Hollow's Bend. It curved through a dense patch of woods, flanked by gnarled trees, and was always swallowed in mist, especially in the early mornings or near dusk. The locals whispered about Hollow's Bend, but no one said anything concrete. Just warnings. Don't drive through the bend after sundown, they'd mutter. Old Mrs. Cartwright, one of my regulars, once pressed a rosary into my hand and said, "If you see a lantern swinging in the woods, don't stop. Just keep driving. No matter what." Back then, I chuckled politely, figuring it was just old folklore. That was before the night I took the last route. It was a Friday evening in late October. I was running late after a flat tire, and the sun was dipping below the hills as I approached Hollow's Bend. I only had one letter left to deliver. No return address, just an old-style envelope sealed with red wax. The name on the front was Elias Granger, and the address led to a small cabin deep in the bend. I'd never heard of Elias before, and I knew everyone out there. But a job's a job. The woods grew darker as I made my way down the gravel road. My headlights cut through the mist, revealing twisted branches and fallen logs. Then I saw it. A lantern, glowing faintly amber, swinging between the trees off the side of the road. I slowed down, remembering Mrs. Cartwright's warning. But curiosity, that damned itch, got the better of me. I rolled down my window just a crack. The air that poured in was ice cold, despite the mild autumn. I squinted into the trees. There was a man. He wore a wide-brimmed hat and an old coat, face shadowed by the lantern's glow. He didn't move, just stood there holding the light. Then the lantern began to swing. Side to side, slow, deliberate, like a pendulum. I pressed the gas and didn't stop until I reached the Granger address. The cabin was decrepit, windows boarded, door slightly ajar. It didn't look like anyone had lived there for years. Still, I figured I'd knock. I climbed the creaking porch and called out, "Mr. Granger? Postal delivery." No answer. I left the letter wedged in the door and turned to leave when a voice whispered behind me, "You brought it back." I spun. No one was there. Then I noticed the letter was gone from the door. I should have run. I should have driven straight home and never looked back. But instead, I stepped inside the cabin. The air was stale, heavy with mildew and old ash. Faded portraits hung crooked on the walls. At the center of the room was a wooden rocking chair, slowly creaking back and forth, as if someone had just stood up. That's when I saw it. A lantern just like the one in the woods, sitting on the floor unlit. I backed away. But before I could leave, the front door slammed shut behind me. My phone had no signal. I banged on the door, kicked it. Nothing. It wouldn't budge. Then came the footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I yelled, "Who's there?" But only silence answered. I grabbed the lantern, instinct maybe, and to my surprise, it lit with a soft hiss, flickering to life without a match. I moved cautiously up the creaking staircase, each step protesting under my weight. At the top was a hallway lined with doors. Most were shut, but one door at the end stood slightly open, flickering with candlelight. I approached. Inside was a study, dust-covered books, maps of the forest, and a mirror hanging on the far wall. But this mirror was wrong. It didn't reflect me. Instead, it showed the cabin from the outside. Through the mirror, I could see my own truck in the driveway, and behind it, the lantern man approaching slowly. I spun around. Nothing behind me. But when I turned back to the mirror, he was closer. Now at the porch. And then the whisper came again, not from the mirror, but from inside the room. You brought it back. In the study, I found a journal, leather-bound, brittle pages. It belonged to Elias Granger. The entry spoke of a spirit of the forest, an old entity that took the form of a lantern-bearing man. Elias had stumbled upon it decades ago, deep in the woods. He had tried to capture its essence in a ritual, trap it in an artifact, a sealed letter. But the price was high. The spirit demanded a cycle. The lantern must be passed. The letter must be delivered. If it's returned, the chain is broken. It wasn't just a letter. It was a binding spell, and by trying to return it, I had broken the containment. I had freed it. From the cabin, I fled on foot. My truck wouldn't start, and the lantern man was blocking the road. Every time I looked back, the lantern swayed closer. The forest bent around me, the trees shifting, reshaping. I could hear voices, whispers in languages I didn't understand. The light of the lantern followed me through the mist like a heartbeat. Thump, thump, swing. I stumbled into a clearing with old stones set in a circle, ritualistic. In the center, an altar. I realized this was where Elias had first bound the spirit. I dropped to my knees, clutching the journal, flipping through the pages for something, anything. There, scrawled in blood-red ink. To seal the light, offer the name it first was given. But I didn't know the spirit's real name. Then I heard it. From the trees. Elias. Let's move on to the next one. Everyone in Millridge knew about the house on Wren Hill Lane. It had been empty for almost 2 decades, sitting at the end of a cul-de-sac like a scab the neighborhood couldn't pick off. Weather-worn shingles. A rotting porch. 6 doors, 3 on the first floor, 3 upstairs. Too many for such a small house. Kids dared each other to knock on the door. Some said if you went inside and opened the 6th door, you'd vanish. No one ever explained which one was the 6th. I never believed in that crap until I moved in. It was cheap, suspiciously cheap. But I needed a place, and this one was available, no questions asked. I signed the lease and moved in within the week. The first night was quiet. The second night, I heard footsteps upstairs. I lived alone. I searched the whole place with a bat in hand. No signs of forced entry. But I noticed something strange that night. The doors inside the house had small brass plaques, each with a number engraved into it, 1 through 6. Bedroom, bathroom, closet, hall, pantry. One door on the 2nd floor didn't seem to lead anywhere. It was labeled 6. I tried the handle. Locked. The next morning, I asked my neighbor, Mr. Healy, about the place. He just shook his head. Should have burned that house down, he muttered. No one ever makes it past a month in there. Not since the boy. What boy? I asked, but he just walked back into his house. Night 3, I heard knocking from inside the house. I stood outside door 6, heart racing as the knocking came again. 3 slow thuds, like someone on the other side was waiting. I pressed my ear to the wood. A whisper. Don't open the door. It wasn't mine. It wasn't my voice, but it was right in my ear. I stumbled back, turned on every light, and stayed up till morning. I thought about leaving, but I couldn't stop thinking about that door. Why was it locked? What was behind it? I went to the hardware store and bought lock-picking tools the next day. If the house wanted to play games, I'd call its bluff. Took me 3 hours. The lock finally gave with a soft click, and the door creaked open slowly. What lay beyond wasn't a room, it was a narrow hallway, dark and narrow, leading to another door. And behind that, another. And another. All unnumbered. All silent. 6 doors, one after the other. I should have turned around, but something drew me in. The air smelled of earth and rot, like something buried long ago. I opened the first door. Empty room. Second. Another empty room, except the walls were scratched like fingernails clawing to escape. Third. Nothing but blood stains on the floor. My breath hitched. Fourth. A mirror. But my reflection wasn't doing what I was. It was smiling. Fifth. A bed neatly made, and on it a boy's skeleton, curled in a fetal position. 6. Still closed. I reached out. As I touched the handle, a voice behind me whispered, "He never left." I turned. A child stood behind me, transparent, eyes hollow. "He told me to open it," he said. "I thought it was a game. He said we'd get out if I did." "Who?" I asked, but the boy only stared, and then he began to scream. The hallway shrank around me. Doors slammed shut one by one. The 6th door began rattling violently. From beneath it, black smoke poured out, thick and cold. The boy clutched my hand. "You can't let it out. If you do, it won't stop. It'll spread." "What is it?" He just whispered, "The thing behind the 6th door doesn't want freedom. It wants to wear you." And the door began to open on its own. I don't remember how I got out. I woke up on the front lawn the next morning. The 6th door gone. The hallway gone. Everything back to normal. But my skin felt too tight. My reflection still smiles sometimes when I don't. I packed that day and left. Didn't even grab my stuff. That night, the house was listed for sale again. 2 weeks later, a new tenant moved in. The house on Wren Hill Lane is still there. Still cheap. Still has 6 doors. And if you listen late at night, you'll hear a knock, knock, knock. Don't answer it, because the 6th door always opens again. Her name was Maya Calderon, a travel nurse from out of state. Moved in with her dog, a friendly golden retriever named Sam. She didn't believe in ghost stories or urban legends. The neighbors watched her from their windows, shaking their heads. She waved cheerfully at Mr. Healy when she saw him raking leaves. "You're the new one?" he asked. "Yep, Maya. House on Wren Hill." His face darkened. "You won't last the month." She just laughed. Sam wouldn't stop barking. He stood at the base of the staircase, hackles raised, staring up into the 2nd floor hallway where door 6 sat quietly. Maya scolded him and closed the door to the upstairs. At 3:13 a.m., Sam whimpered and clawed at the floor. Maya woke to the sound of scraping, a slow dragging noise coming from above. The next morning, door 6 had a faint handprint on it. Small, childlike. On the inside, Maya found a small box in the attic. Inside were photographs, old Polaroids showing the inside of the house from decades ago. But in every photo, a dark figure stood at the edge of the frame, always near door 6. Always watching. One photo had a note scrawled on the back. "It only knocks when it's awake." That night, door 6 began to knock. Slow, rhythmic, measured. Maya called out, "Who's there?" No answer. But in her bedroom mirror, the reflection of the hallway showed the door wide open, and something standing in the shadows beyond it. Let's move on to the next one. Ethan Cole went missing on December 3, 1998. He was a sophomore at Mayfield High and lived just 2 streets over from me. One evening, he walked home after basketball practice and never made it. No witnesses, no clues, no sign of struggle. It was like he vanished into thin air. The town panicked. Rumors spread fast. Serial killer, cult, wild animals. But the one that stuck, the ragman took him. I was 16 then, the same age as Ethan, and I remember the whispers vividly. They said the ragman lived in the woods behind Brookhaven Park. He wore a coat made of sewn-together rags, each one from someone he'd taken. Don't stay out after dark, they warned. If you hear the rattle of cloth in the trees, don't look, don't run. Just shut your eyes and pray. We laughed it off, until kids started hearing rustling outside their windows. I moved away, got married, started a life. But in 2020, after my divorce, I returned to Mayfield to take care of my sick mother. That's when I found Ethan's journal in my childhood attic. It had my name on it, for Daniel if I disappear. I sat on the floor, dust in the air, heart pounding as I flipped through the pages. The entries grew more paranoid the further I read. He's watching me again. I saw the rag on my windowsill, green with blood on the corner. He doesn't walk like a person. He slides. I think he comes from the trees. The woods are wrong. There's a door. I saw it open once. The final page read, "If I'm gone, don't follow the rags. He leaves them as bait." I told myself it was just a scared kid's imagination. But then the rags started showing up again. First on the welcome mat outside my mom's house, blue frayed at the edges. Next on the hood of my car, gray with a smear of something dark. And finally, one was tied to my bedroom door. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing soft shuffling in the hallway, like fabric dragging across the floor. I set up a camera. What it caught wasn't human. A figure, cloaked entirely in strips of fabric, twisted and stained. It didn't walk. It slid, limbs moving like they were unhinged. It stopped at my door, lifted its head, and the camera cut to static. I followed the trail of rags the next morning, deep into Brookhaven Forest. Everything was wrong out there. The air was too still. Birds were silent. Trees leaned unnaturally close together. Then I saw it, a clearing with no sound. In its center, a wooden door frame, freestanding, rotting, but upright. No walls. No hinges, just a door frame, and beneath it scattered bones, dozens of them. I turned to leave but heard a voice, familiar. "Dan?" It was Ethan's voice, weak, echoing, coming from beyond the door frame. I stepped forward, and the ragman stepped out to block my path. I froze. The ragman didn't speak. He didn't breathe. He just stood there, head twitching side to side like a confused insect. Then I noticed one of the rags was my shirt, a piece I had thrown out a week ago. I understood then. He collects pieces of you before he takes you, like a signature, a claim. I backed away, but the ragman pointed at the door frame, then at me. A choice, go in or be taken. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I owed Ethan. Maybe I needed answers. Maybe it was the voice. I stepped through the frame. The world beyond the frame wasn't a forest. It was a twisting, endless hallway of cloth. Walls of stitched rags. A ceiling of stitched rags. Faces pressed into the fabric, screaming silently, their mouths sewn shut. I walked for what felt like hours, until I found a room with 6 figures sitting cross-legged. All children. all staring blankly at a tattered figure in the center. Ethan, still 16, still in his school clothes, but his eyes were hollow, his body limp. "The ragman keeps us," he whispered. "He's the collector, the stitcher. He makes us part of his story." I grabbed his hand. "We're leaving." But the ragman appeared again, emerging from the wall itself, unraveling like a nightmare. And this time I saw his face. No mouth, just hundreds of black threads crossing where lips should be, and button eyes sewn in upside down. Ethan looked at me. "If you take me, someone else must take my place." I made it back. I don't remember how. I woke up in my bed. The forest was gone. The doorframe no longer stood in Brookhaven. But Ethan wasn't with me. And that night I found a new rag on my doorknob, bright white. Fresh. Waiting. I burned it. But I know he's still watching. Still collecting. And now I dream of fabric halls and children with button eyes. So if you find a rag outside your door, don't touch it, because the ragman never stops stitching. Let's move on to the next one. I was unemployed when the offer came. A private research group called Orphic Dynamics wanted volunteers for a psychological study. No invasive procedures. Just one requirement: spend 7 nights in a remote house under surveillance. Record your dreams. Observe your behavior. Pay $10,000. I was broke. I said yes. The house was old, tucked into a misty stretch of hills far from any town. 2 stories, 6 rooms, dusty but furnished. The only strange thing? A locked door in the center of the upstairs hallway. Our handler, Dr. Kessler, called it the reflection room. We were told not to enter. Purely precautionary, he said. The study doesn't require it. They gave me a journal and a key card. Cameras were everywhere, but I figured whatever. 10 grand is 10 grand. I didn't realize they were watching for something else. The first night was quiet. I explored the house. All the rooms were standard: kitchen, study, bedrooms. But the door to the reflection room drew my attention. It was plain, gray, and cold to the touch, even though the hallway was warm. At exactly 2:17 a.m., I woke to a buzzing noise, like static inside my skull. I sat up and saw a glow under the reflection room door, pale, flickering light. It faded after 10 seconds. The next morning, I asked the other participant, a quiet woman named June, if she saw it too. She just said, "The mirror's calling to you already?" Then she walked away. That night I couldn't sleep. The buzzing returned, stronger this time. I stood outside the reflection room, feeling drawn to it. Then the door unlocked on its own. I pushed it open. Inside was a single, full-length mirror. It stood in the center of a black painted room with no windows, no furniture. Just a mirror, tall and gleaming, facing the door. There was no reflection at first, just a void. Then I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. The mirror changed. It didn't reflect the room I was in. It showed another version of me, standing in a different house, identical but wrong. Darker, dustier. Every painting on the wall was upside down. Every clock was spinning backward. The other me looked back at me and smiled, but I didn't. He reached up to the mirror with one hand. My chest began to ache, a burning pain like my ribs were twisting. I screamed and stumbled out of the room, and the pain vanished. The door slammed shut behind me again. June was waiting in the hallway. "He touched you, didn't he?" she asked. "What the hell is going on here?" She leaned in, whispering, "Orphic Dynamics isn't studying us. It's studying them." June told me everything. She'd been part of a previous trial. Same house, different time. She had seen her reflection change, begin to move on its own. First in dreams, then while awake. After 7 nights, it breaks through, she said. It replaces you. You wake up on the wrong side of the glass. No one notices. You become a shadow of yourself. The people who love you think you've just changed. We tried to leave. Car. Dead battery. Phones. No signal. Windows. Covered in metal mesh from the outside. The next night, her reflection was missing from the bathroom mirror, and I found a note under my pillow. It said, "You belong here more than he does." June disappeared. One moment she was in the study and the next, gone. I found the reflection room wide open. The mirror was flickering like a screen caught between channels. Then I saw it. My reflection wasn't mine anymore. It wore my face, but its eyes were black pits. Its mouth moved slowly, lips curling around silent words. Trade. I ran, barricaded the door, hid in the kitchen until morning. When I finally worked up the courage to open the reflection room again, the mirror was cracked, and my reflection was gone. On the 7th morning, Orphic Dynamics arrived. They thanked me, paid me in full. No questions asked, no explanations offered. I went home, but something's wrong. My dog growls at me now. My mother says my voice sounds different. And every mirror in my house, my reflection doesn't move when I do. Last night I caught it smiling again. I didn't. 2 weeks after I came home, I stopped trusting mirrors. Not just because my reflection smiled when I didn't, not just because it blinked half a second too late, but because I started seeing other people inside them. People I didn't know, standing in rooms that didn't exist. They didn't look through the glass at me. They looked past me as if watching something behind me. Then came the dreams, always the same. I'm walking through an endless hallway of mirrors. The glass stretches up into darkness. Each one reflects a different version of myself, sick, twisted, violent. Some are smiling. Some are dead. One is missing a face entirely. That one follows me. Then the envelope arrived. No stamp. No return address. Just slid under my door one morning. Inside was a photo. It showed me standing in the reflection room, but taken from inside the mirror. I was reaching toward the glass, eyes black, smile wide. And on the back of the photo, 3 words. We've begun merging. Let's move on to the next one. The call started the night after I moved into my new apartment. It was a studio on the 14th floor of a brutalist concrete high-rise on the city's edge. Cheap, quiet, and with a great view of nothing but fog and freeway. Perfect for someone who wanted to be alone. The first night at exactly 12 a.m. my landline rang. I hadn't even plugged it in. When I picked up, I only heard breathing. Slow. What? Like someone was pressing their mouth against the phone. I said hello 3 times. Then a whisper came through. I found you. I hung up. The next morning, I asked the building manager if the landline was active. It's not connected to anything, he said. It's probably just some crossed wires in the wall. Old buildings do weird things. I should have thrown the phone out, but something made me keep it. Curiosity, maybe. The second call came that night. Same time. Midnight. This time the voice was clearer. You shouldn't be here. What do you mean? The line crackled. Then, you've taken her number. I looked into the apartment's history. It used to belong to a woman named Lana Miles. Mid-20s. Vanished in 2018. Police said she skipped town, left everything behind. Her friend said she started acting strange, talking to herself, saying the walls were listening, saying someone was calling her every night. She'd lived in Unit 1406, my unit. I found her name scratched into the inside of the bathroom mirror, barely visible unless the steam hit it just right. Lana plus midnight. That night the call came again. The voice had changed. Sounded like me. But it wasn't me. "You're in my room," it said. "I want it back." The lights began flickering every night at 11:59 p.m. Every mirror in the apartment distorted my reflection. My movements lagged or reversed or showed a version of me that was smiling when I wasn't. I tried sleeping during the day, staying up all night with headphones on, blasting music. But the call always came, no matter what I did. I unplugged the phone. Still rang. I smashed it with a hammer. It still rang. At midnight, it rang from the broken pieces. That night, I didn't answer. The voice came from behind me instead. I set up a camera to record the room during the night. What I saw the next morning turned my blood cold. At exactly 12 a.m., the screen went static. When it cleared, I was gone from the bed. But something, was standing in the corner of the room, drenched in shadow, twitching slightly, holding the phone. When the call ended, it looked directly into the lens and whispered, "We share now." That morning, I found dozens of long black strands of hair in my sink. I shaved my head last year. I tried to leave. I packed my bags, called a cab, walked to the elevator. When the doors opened, it wasn't the lobby. It was my apartment. My bags were already unpacked, and the phone was ringing. I screamed and ran down the stairs, 14 flights. Every door I passed had the same number on it, 1406, 1406, 1406. When I got back to my floor, the hallway was dark. The apartment door was open. Inside, the phone still rang. This time I answered it. The voice said, "You've been accepted. Please stay on the line. Forever." A week later, the unit was rented again. The new tenant moved in and found the apartment spotless, except for a cracked landline phone in the kitchen. He didn't think much of it until it rang at 12 a.m. sharp, and a voice that sounded like mine whispered, "I'm waiting for you to hang up." The new tenant's name was Ryan Ellison, graphic designer, recently single. Moved into 1406 after seeing it listed for half the price of anything else in the city. He didn't ask questions. Didn't notice the faint hairline cracks along the ceiling, the light buzzing in the bathroom mirror, or the fact that the building didn't have a 13th floor. Just jumped straight from 12 to 14. He only started getting nervous when the landline rang on his first night. 12 a.m. Exactly. He let it ring 5 times before answering. "Hello." Pause. Then a whisper. "Welcome, Ryan. You've been heard." After that, the calls came every night. Always at midnight. Sometimes the voice said things like, "Don't move. It's watching you." Other times it was just crying. Or worse, laughter that sounded like his own but wrong, warped and childlike. He tried calling the building manager. No answer. He asked the neighbors. There were none. Unit 1405 was empty. 1407 had a lock covered in dust. Every hallway was silent. He realized he hadn't seen a single person since he moved in. Just that one figure down the hallway, always too far away to see clearly, always watching from just around the corner. It happened on the 5th night. Ryan was brushing his teeth when he looked in the mirror and noticed himself, blinking too slowly, moving too deliberately. and smiling even though his mouth was closed. He backed away and turned the light off. When he turned it back on, the reflection was normal, but someone had written in the steam, "One of US." Desperate, Ryan recorded the next call. He slowed the recording down, cleaned up the noise, and filtered it through an audio program. Beneath the voice, he heard layers. Voices stacked behind the whisper. Male, female, old, young. Some screaming, some laughing, some begging, and one that sounded like him. "Let me out. He's using my name." He listened again. It didn't say, "You've been heard." It said, "You've been replaced." Let's move on to the next one. It started with a leak in the ceiling. I had just moved into an old apartment in the north end of the city. Top floor, creaky floors, stained wallpaper, the usual charm of affordable housing. The landlord said the unit above mine had been sealed off for years after a fire. He told me not to worry about the leak. But that night, water dripped from the ceiling. Yellow water. Thick, almost gelatinous. I climbed up the fire escape to peek into the upstairs unit. The hallway was black. Smelled like mold and copper. And at the end of it, I saw it. A single wooden door, slightly open, leaking light the color of old paper. The apartment above me had no power. I called the landlord again. He swore there was no room 709. The building only had 6 floors. But I saw it. The number was burned into the wood. Not painted, burned. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamed of the door. And I could hear it whispering through the floorboards. Faint, like someone humming a tune with no melody. The next night I went back up. I pushed the door open. Inside was a yellow room. Bright but with no light source. The walls seemed to glow. The air was humid, sour, and thick. And in the center of the room was a chair facing the wall. I don't know why, but I walked inside. The door slammed shut behind me. The air changed immediately. It felt like I had stepped into a vacuum. No sound, no breeze, no echo when I called out. Just silence and that damned yellow light. The chair in the center of the room was made of wood. Ordinary but wrong somehow. The angles were slightly off. It made your eyes ache to look at it too long. On the floor in front of it was a warning carved into the wood. "Do not sit." I turned to leave, but the door was gone. Only endless yellow walls. And then the humming began again. I wandered the room for what felt like hours. There were no corners, no shadows, no way to tell direction. Just the yellow glow and the ever-present hum growing louder, closer, until it almost felt like it was coming from inside me. I started to hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling me. But I was alone. Then I saw it, the watcher. A tall, lanky figure pressed flush against the wall, its face buried into the plaster like it was listening through it. Its arms hung like wet rope. It never turned, never moved. But every time I blinked, it was closer. I ran, and found myself back where I started, in front of the chair. And now the warning on the floor said, "Sit." I didn't want to sit, but the room wouldn't let me leave. Every turn, every wall, back to the chair. So eventually I gave in. The moment I sat down, everything went black. Then I saw me. At age 7, hiding in a closet while my parents fought in the next room. Then again, age 16, crying in a school bathroom after being humiliated in front of the class. It made me watch all my worst memories, every secret shame, every buried regret. The watcher stood in the corner the whole time, twitching now like it was feeding on the pain. And when it was over, the chair whispered, You're part of the room now. I woke up on my apartment floor, covered in yellow dust, my nose bleeding. Room 709 was gone. The fire escape led nowhere. The hallway above me was sealed in solid concrete. I moved out the next day, but I still see that yellow glow in my dreams. Sometimes in mirrors, sometimes on strangers walking by. And last week, I passed my old building and saw a new name on the mailbox for Unit 608. A girl named Lena. I saw her again yesterday. She looked tired, pale. And as she passed me, I heard her humming. The same melody, the same tune. No melody, no end, just humming. And behind her eyes, a soft yellow glow. Lena moved into Unit 608 the same month I moved out. Young mid-20s student, quiet. I only saw her once, the day she moved in. She smiled when I passed her on the stairs, but her eyes were dull, like she hadn't slept in weeks, even though she'd just arrived. 2 days later, the neighbor across the hall called the building manager to complain about a smell. Something thick and chemical seeping through the ceiling. Then the humming started, soft at first, faint and tuneless, but rising every night, from beneath the floor, from inside the pipes, from the walls. It vibrated through the building like the old place was remembering something. Then Lena stopped leaving her apartment. I broke in. I had to. I climbed the back fire escape again, and just like before, I found a floor that shouldn't exist. The 7th. But this time the door was wide open. Lena was inside, sitting in the same wooden chair. Eyes wide, lips trembling, like she'd been crying for hours. She didn't see me, or couldn't. She was watching something I couldn't see, staring straight ahead at a blank wall, nodding slowly like she was answering a voice only she could hear. The walls were breathing. The watcher stood behind her, taller now, thicker. Its skin looked sewn from yellow fabric, soaked and rotten. Its mouth was a zipper, closed, until Lena whispered something, and the zipper began to open. I screamed her name. She turned. Her face was wrong, stretching like melted wax, eyes glowing faint yellow. Her mouth twisted as she said, "There's a chair now for everyone." Then the floor peeled open beneath her, not cracked, peeled like wallpaper, and she fell in, vanishing into endless humming. The room was empty again, but the chair was still there, now facing me. The floor read, "Next."